Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer, board recorder, videos, and a tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to another DM's Guild review, my written and video view series. Take a look at the adventures and supplemental material at the Dungeon Masters Guild website. For this video, we'll be reviewing the mini-adventure Full Moon Fey Tales, designed by S.J. Doble for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. A review copy has been provided for the purposes of this review. If you enjoy my content, consider using my affiliate links for online shopping and supporting me via patreon.com/RogueWatson. This is a fairly brief, only about a dozen pages adventure designed for a party level 5 through 7, although this entire adventure could be played without any combat at all, and it feels like, because of that, very easy for the level range. So, I mean, I think you could very easily scale this for different levels. In fact, Tier 2 seems pretty aggressive, considering the tasks that you're up against, but you know, that's your call. In terms of a Fey adventure, I think this does a really good job of conveying the themes of the Feywild, which is the unique creatures, the fact that everybody wants to stop and chat. It's always, you know, very verdant and full of life, and usually there's forests and, you know, ancient trees and mystic ponds and all that. I think it checks a lot of those tropes that make Feywild adventures really fun and entertaining. And more importantly, this one has a fun little story that's simple but engaging, I would say. It's very straightforward. It's a tale of basically the players get to choose which faction they want to side with. The factions in this case are just the elves looking for a ring, a hunting party of elves, or an undine, which is like a water nymph spirit who has the ring. And the one is angry about something, and she wants the heart of one of the other elves, and the elves just want the ring back. So you have two mutually exclusive factions that the party can side with. And it's just one of those, you know, very small little side quest adventures where, like a lot of Feywild stuff, the players are kind of stumble into the Feywild, and then it becomes kind of a mini Lost in the Feywild adventure where they go through several scenes and encounters, and then ultimately their goal is just to simply leave the Feywild. Or it does mention in this adventure that, hey, you could use this as a spring point to, you know, whatever Feywild adventures that you want. So very small adventure designed for levels 5 through 7, but again, you could easily scale that for lower down, although it doesn't have scaling information in there. The main background is that this elf stole a ring from the court, I guess the summer court, and hit it with the water spirit nymph for reasons. And according to the water spirit nymph, she ended up falling in love with this elf and thought that, oh, this is a token of love and gratitude and everything. But then that elf never showed up, and it was a big drama. And then the elf now is looking to get that ring back, and has been basically had to turn over evidence and say, yeah, oh, it was somebody else that stole the ring. Now I gotta get that fucking ring back. Kind of a situation, and now they're part of the hunting party that's trying to get the ring back from the Undine. But the Undine is very pissed off because they think, oh, my love has been, you know, unrequited, and I've seen this person out hunting, and clearly they've betrayed me, and so she wants that elf's heart instead. So you either have to basically steal from the water nymph spirit in the water, or kill the elf that's part of this larger hunting party, which I think is a pretty effective story, and one that's, you know, still relatively easy to run for the DM and relatively easy to convey to the players. There's a few encounters you can go through before that. First of all, I don't know how to pronounce this, Foulette. By the way, despite there being, I think, a number of solid Fey creatures you can use in the official resources, this one actually has several new creatures, which is pretty cool. All Fey themed creatures. In this case, to get transported into the Feywild, it's a classic, like, oh, whoever falls asleep, like, you know, your goods are being carried off, like, invisibly floating around, and you have to try to make, I think you can try to make, you know, saves or checks, but either way, it's going to happen. Your stuff's going to get stolen, and and you kind of follow the fairies, whatever, and you end up falling into the Feywild world. And then you have two main encounters before the two big factions, which is the Troll Bridge and the Bloodvine Grove. The Troll Bridge is pretty fun because it's not a straight up combat encounter. Instead, it's a troll who wants a toll, you know, classic Billy Goat Gruff, I guess it's the troll under the bridge is also a trope. but the toll can just be, he just wants to be entertained. So you have to just make him happy. You can tell a joke, you can sing a song, you can perform some kind of impressive feat of, athleticism or something. And it's supposed to be where the players are encouraged to, either make a skill check, or they could even do role playing or whatever. But more than likely, it's not supposed to be a combat encounter. So I appreciated that. And a lot of these events are like that. There's the Bloodvine Groves. You can even, if you have a way of talking to the plants, or in other words, communicating with them, they can explain that, like, hey, we're really hungry, we need some blood, but we'll try not to hurt you too much. You can actually try to role play your way and treat it more as a hazard encounter versus just a straight up combat fight with these sentient plants, in which case they kind of prick you for a couple damage as you go in, and you can again kind of commune with this tree that'll give you some information. The one thing that this adventure really lacks, even though it's very, very short, is I still would have preferred some kind of adventure flowchart. I don't need necessarily a overland map of the Feywild, and I think that's always tricky anyway, because a lot of the Fey adventures, places can change or pop up or disappear, and it's supposed to be all very like maze-like and mystical when you're in this realm. So I get that, and I'm okay with there not being like a overland map per se, but I do think it would be very helpful to have some kind of adventure flowchart, because when I was first reading this, I was a little confused about, there's a part where it says, okay, you can either cross the bridge to get to the water where the nymph's at, or you can turn around and go anywhere, and then you'll end up in the hunting camp. But then if you cross the bridge, you end up in the Bloodvine Grove. And I think the Grove, you're supposed to go north to get to the pool, or south to get to the hunting camp, which is on the road. But you could also get there from anywhere else. So it was a little confusing for me to determine, like, what's the order of events we're supposed to be running things. And then later it says in the adventure, like, oh, hey, if you haven't run this adventure, or you haven't run this encounter yet, then do that then, because again, it's the Feywild, so things can just pop up in different places. So I appreciate that there's no like random encounter table, and instead there's these entire events to do. I much prefer that, but it would have been nice to have some kind of adventure flowchart to be able to at least see, like, okay, what is the intended design and order of events that we're going through here. And you can really introduce either one of these two first, which that might be better to give the players a choice. Is like, hey, you see a war camp up ahead, this path, and then this path you see a pond, and then the players kind of decide. And it doesn't really matter which one they do first, although it might color their expectations and their motivations for which faction they want to side with, because they'll eventually need to visit both of them to complete this adventure. So the hunting camp has got the Fey Lord, and then a bunch of elven scouts, and then some displacer beasts. And it's very much a role-playing scene, but you of course have to play up the Fey Lord's egotism and respectfulness, and have dinner and wine and all this, and learn the story of how he wants the ring and missing the ring. And then you can visit the Undine pool, which again has this kind of unique, where's the stat block? Yeah, it's a CR. Doesn't say the CR in there, does it? Okay. It's got some spell casting abilities, DC 16 plus 8 to hit. That's a pretty solid stat block, I think. Moonbeam, Thorn Whip, Lesser Restoration, Water Breathing, Tidal Wave, and it can summon Quippers. That's pretty nifty. But again, this is all mainly supposed to be role playing at first until you decide who you want to side with. And even once you side with somebody, you don't necessarily have to fight the other ones. The only thing you would probably have to end up fighting is if you sided with the Undine, you would probably have to fight at least the one elf. Or the thing is, you can side with the Undine, you go to the pool, you learn her story, and then you can actually go and tell and convince the other elf, like, hey, by the way, this one elf in your party, that's who she's pointing out is the one that gave her the ring. And then that elf goes, well, yeah, let's just give her to, because the stipulation is that they can't, because of elf Fey rules, they can't go to the pool and fuck with the nymph lady or something. So he's like, you as the third party players, you can go and deal with that and be our nice outsiders to handle that. And then you have to basically chase her down and I guess fight her or whatever, and then bring her to the Undine. But I appreciate the fact that you could pretty much do all this without, for the most part, forced combat. And likewise, if you want to just steal the ring from the Undine, you could do that. You'd have to set up this complicated, some of you distract her while the others kind of sneak in the water and go down, because it's like a lockbox under the water, and there's some hazards and stuff there and traps. So I appreciate there's a lot going on here without there being just random encounters and fights. So I think the designer did a really good job of nailing the Feywild theme and providing a lot of fun role-playing and exploration opportunities. And then obviously, if you want to fight any of these scenarios, you certainly can. Every single one of these encounters has creatures, has stat blocks. They are technically always, combat's always on the table with D&D, I think. And that's... that could be the case for more combat-related people, but I think probably parties who are at least wanting either a break from combat or just a more RP focused session, and obviously you want to use the Feywild, I think this is a pretty solid adventure to use and very easy to run. Something I also want to mention, you know what, I'll mention it when I do my pros. Let's go into our pros and cons right now. Pro, simple yet engaging story and a meaningful side to choose for the players, which is this chapter 3 right here, which all these, again, very short pages, you can easily parse out the information here, but and the choice is just, do you want to side with the elves with the hunting party, or side with the Undine, the nymph, and then whoever you work for, the reward is that they will then transport you out of the Feywild, so you have to end up siding with one of them. But it's very much a classic, and a lot of video games do that too, where it's like you've got a thing you need to do, those two factions can offer you the thing, and you have to decide which one, and they're both, mutually opposed to each other. So I appreciate that as a story narrative building device. Pro, true to the Fey theme, every encounter can be solved without combat. Now, I don't necessarily think that's a great or necessary thing to do for every adventure I review or look at, but for the Fey especially, I think the Feywild is all about like every creature surprisingly having sentience and having a role-playing scene, and that being more of the focus than it is just fighting monsters in a dungeon or something. I think that's what makes the Feywild. And I think the designer knows that and built all these encounters around that. But of course, you can fight creatures if you want. Pro, every one of these locations features full color maps, including gridded and non-gridded versions. Now, unfortunately, they are not embedded in the adventure here, but I think I've set this up so I can show you. There we go. So this is an example of the Troll Bridge map. This is the non-gridded version. I don't know who the artist is, unfortunately. It doesn't say in the credit section who the cartographer is, but these are really nice quality, full color, beautiful battle maps. Again, this is the non-gridded version. They've included gridded versions and VTT versions of 4 locations, which is the Troll Bridge, the Bloodvine Grove, the Hunting Camp, and the Pool, which are all the locations. Because again, there's no random encounters, it's just those events, which is a great way of organizing it, making it very easy to run. And this makes it very easy to run on a virtual tabletop or just a tabletop in general, because you've got these battle maps. And keep in mind, I've reviewed adventures where there is combat and you don't have maps for it. And this one, you might not have any combat whatsoever, and yet we've got all these maps for it. So I think that's a huge, huge plus for me, and I love to see that. And Pro, 6 detailed pre-generated character sheets. So I mentioned that this adventure is technically designed for levels 5 through 7, although, again, because you could maybe not even fight combat, you could probably do it lower and get away with it. And the designer includes 6, I'll switch to the other tab, of these pre-generated character sheets using the official 5e PDF that's you can fill in all the different areas. But look at this, it's actually got all the traits, bonds, and flaws filled in. All of the attack rolls are filled in correctly. It's very well organized. I need this person to build my D&Ds, to build my sheets. You get likes and dislikes, which I think is amazing, and entire backstories. They've got all of their nice traits and features and things written down here. This is the best the best job of doing a pre-generated character sheet I think I've seen with a product, and that's something I wouldn't have expected with a otherwise relatively short tier 2 adventure, to suddenly give me, hey, here's some pre-generated character sheets, by the way, for these things. And these are all really good sheets. This is just the example I'm using, but there's 6 of these, and they're all level 6 ready to go player character sheets. So I thought that was really impressive, and I was honestly blown away by how much love and care and detail was put into these character sheets. So big thumbs up to that. My only con is the lack of an adventure flowchart. As I mentioned, I got a little confused in terms of the order in which we're supposed to be running these encounters and events, or where they can be placed. And maybe I get that's part of the difficulty of doing the Feywild, is because maybe you want to be able to use these in different areas. But if that's the case, then I guess I need a little bit more explanation about which exactly comes where, because they're just kind of listed in this order, and I got confused at least in like 1 or 2 different places about, okay, wait, when are we supposed to do this one versus where does this one lead to go there? So I think some kind of flow chart, if not a basic map just for DMs or something, just to try to figure out how this relatively small world still kind of fits together. Final verdict, a brief but memorable Lost in the Feywild story, thanks to the emphasis on role-playing and player-focused choices. Thank you to everyone for watching this video review. You can see my written review at roguewatson.com. You can watch more reviews and follow our own D&D adventures here on my YouTube channel, and support my work at patreon.com/roguewatson. Shouts to Platinum patrons, Joe, Will, Tiny Dancer, Thomas, Adam, Stan, Nathan, William, I'm Loud, Al, Kyle, Scleniant, Genocider, David, and Jam and Clams. Gold patrons, RPG, Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Marcus, Dead Lizard, Lounge, Sam, Lumpy Spuds, Jerome, Nathan, Fast Like a Tortoise, James, and Perry. Thank you all very much for your support.